good day. So this week we will continue our lecture on Public Act 9266. So I think this is the second part. So we'll just try to browse through some of the important provisions that we must take note of. So I think we've already finished this. So let's move on to Rule 2. So Rule 2 is about the creation of the Professional Regulatory Board of Architecture. So its organization's powers and functions. Okay. So Section 4, the creation and composition of the PRC Regulatory Board. So here it is stated that a Professional Regulatory Board of Architecture, hereinafter referred as the board, so it's a collegial body under the supervision and administrative control of the PRC, herein referred to as the Commission. So it is composed of a chairman and 2 members appointed by the President of the Philippines from a list of 3 recommendees chosen from these 5 nominees, for each position submitted to the Commission by the IAPOA, which is currently the U. So the board shall be organized not later than 6 months from the effectivity of the Architecture Act of 2004. Okay. So here are the qualifications. So it must be a resident of the Philippines. So it must be a holder of Bachelor of Science in Architecture in the Philippines or abroad, as long as it's recognized by CHED. An architect, the valid CUR, Certificate of Registration, and a professional identification card, and an active practitioner of architecture for at least 10 years. So not a member of any faculty, school, or university where a regular course or review course in architecture is taught. Okay. I think here the board, I think can become a member if he or she had officially resigned from such an institution 5 years prior to the nomination. Has never been convicted of any crime involving moral turpitude, then must be an elective officer of the IAPOA and other professional organization of architects. Okay, so the term of office. So members of the board shall have a term of 3 years after the appointment until their successor shall have been appointed and duly qualified. The powers and functions of the board is prescribed and adopt the IRR of the Architecture Act of 2004, supervise the registration, licensure, and practice of architects, administer oaths, issue, suspend, or revoke COR and PIC, adopt an official seal of the board, monitor the conditions affecting the practice of architecture, prescribe and adopt the code of ethical conduct and standards of professional practice. Here decide administrative cases involving violations of RA 966. So here issue subpoena ad testificandum and subpoena ducis decum to secure the appearance of witnesses and the productions of documents in connection therewith provided. Okay. So prescribe guidelines for the CPD. Prepare, adopt, issue, or amend the syllabi of the subjects for examination, approve, issue, limit, or cancel temporary special permits, to coordination with CHED, ensure that all other higher educational instructions and offerings of architecture comply with the policies and standards of the course prescribed by CHED. I think there should read on this last CHED Memorandum Circular Number 61. It's about the guidelines, the policies and standards of CHED regarding the Bachelor of Science in Architecture program. Then to adopt a program for computerization of the licensure examination. Okay. So back in our day class, our exam for design, it's not computerized, so we had to solve a problem. I think the problem given to us during our time was to design a residential subdivision. Okay, so I think there were 3 models of a house, and we have to compute also the cost. Yeah, yeah, we compute the cost, and then we're going to provide three perspectives and plans for the different units. It's already more than 10 years ago. Okay, okay, so let's go to the rule 3, which I think this will really affect you because something you'll be taking the board examination. So all applicants, section 12 examination required. So all applicants for registration for the practice of architecture shall be required to undergo a licensure examination to be given by the board in such places and dates as the commission may designate in accordance with the provisions of RA 8981. So the qualifications for the applicant for the examination, so take note of this. So he or she is a Filipino citizen or a foreign country qualified to take examinations by Section 27, Article 4 of Finance carried out by Section 7, Rule 4 of the Architecture Act of 2004. And he or she is a good moral character. Then he or she is a holder of the degree of Bachelor of Science in Architecture, conferred by a school, college, or academy or institute, duly recognized by CHED in addition as a specific record of at least 2 years of equivalent of diversified architectural experience, duly certified by a registered or licensed architect. Okay, so provide, however, that an applicant holding a master's degree in architecture from a school, college, university, or institute recognized by the government shall be credited 1 year in his or her practical experience. So if you have a master's degree class, so instead of 2 years, you'll just have to take it in 1 year. But master's degree class, it also takes 2 years to complete. So over and all, if you're going to take a master's degree, you'll be spending around 3 years before you can take the exam. Because you can't take a master's degree unless you have the BS degree already. And he or she has not been convicted of any criminal offense in doing moral turpitude. So these are the documents that you must bring. So right now, class, I hope that you're already secured this, your certificate of live birth in the NSO. Like NSO now is PSA, Philippine Statistics. Marriage contract, class. If during that time you're already married, college diploma with indication date of graduation, your transcript of records, then your accomplished diversified training form 001 and 002. Then you also have an architect mentor affidavit, photocopy of your architect mentor's professional identification card, tax receipt and IAPOA number. Then you must also secure an NBI clearance and other documents that the board may require. Okay. But so far, class, in my experience, I think 1 to 9, 10 years, more than 10 years ago, this is already sufficient. So I don't know now if there are new requirements with the board. Okay. So right now, if you can secure some of these documents, the better it will be for you. Okay, then fraudulent applications of candidate and mentor. The board may refuse to renew a PIC card or may suspend or revoke any registration obtained by false swearing or any misrepresentations made in applying for registration or examination, and may refuse to renew or grant registration to any applicant whose application contains such false evidence or information. So it's important, class, that whatever you present to the PRC, that all of it are true, especially your experience. Okay? This is also for your own good. Okay, class? So at least when you become architects, you already have the 2 years experience. Okay, so these are the subjects for examination. You have history and theory of architecture, the principles of planning and architectural practice. Okay, I think in our time, so it was also merged like this. So take note, here part 1, the history of architecture, so analysis of architectural manifestations from the beginning of civilization to the contemporary periods of development. You have analysis of the influences of environmental, historical, and socio-cultural factors and the relevance of development of art, building structure, as well as of human settlements. Then you have part 2, theory of architecture. Okay. So I hope that you listen to your instructor when you were in your first and second years. Then you have architectural practice. Okay. So most of this class will be discussed, I think, in your building laws too, in professional practice too. Then you have here the theories and principles of planning. Okay, and you have structural design, building materials, and architectural specification, and methods of construction and utilities. Okay, so you have a subject for this class, but it is important that you really gain experience, especially when it comes to construction and utilities. So after you graduate, don't settle for a job that will just confine you inside the office. Okay, so when you graduate, try to find a mentor who can give you as much site experience as possible. Okay. You have building materials and methods of construction. Okay, so my new class, and building materials and methods of construction. So most of the questions there, when you take the board examination, it's not going to be like lower thinking skill style. So it's in higher thinking skills. So I think most of the questions there at board examination, it will test your the knowledge, not just the knowledge, but the wisdom that you have gained in the 2 years of your diversified experience, your diversified training experience. Okay, so most of the questions will ask you about some decision making skills in terms of methods of construction and building materials. So the questions are not more on what the materials are, but mostly on its application. And that's why I'm telling you right now, when you graduate, like what I've said before, find a mentor who can allow you to experience the site as well. Okay? Same with utilities. Then you have urban design, architectural interiors. Then of course, architectural design and site planning. So during our day class back in 2009, when we took the board examination, we did a manual plan of a complete subdivision in one day, including the estimates. So I think right now your exam is more on computation, but still you need to retain the skills in architectural design, because it will really be useful when you'll be practicing already. So to be qualified as having passed the licensure examination for architects, a candidate must obtain a weighted general average of 70% with no grade lower than 50 in any given subject. Okay? So you're really fortunate, class, that in our school here in USTP, the passing grade is already pegged at 70%. That is to train you in your board exam. Okay, so I hope that someday you'll pass the exam with flying colors. Okay, so the report of rating. So the board shall submit to the commission the ratings obtained by each candidate within 30 calendar days after the examination, unless extended for a just cause. So So 30 days is really fast. During our time, there was still a manual design. I think it took around 2 months or more. Because the examiner has to check each of the plans that we made. So there are thousands of applicants. So that will take time. Now it's computerized. Maybe it will be less than 30 days. Okay, so my tip, class, when you're taking the board exam, try to prepare in advance after graduation. Okay? You should already plan the examination 2 years prior to taking it. Then take the 6 months review, study, do your best, and then don't panic. When the day before the exam or even a week before the exam, just try to relax. Then don't pressure yourselves. Okay, so when you take the examination, you should be as calm as possible so that you won't have mental blockage. Then just do your best. Okay, that's the only thing that you can do. So it's normal, class, to really feel panic when you're already taking the exam, or you feel nervous, but that's something that you must manage. Okay? But I think you'll make it, most of you, if you take your training seriously here at UST. Okay, then the oath. So all successful candidates in the examination shall be required to take an oath of profession for any member of the board. Okay? So in our time, class, it was in the Manila Hotel in 2009. So we took an oath there. Okay. So I hope that during your time that you'll be passed, and then you also experience all of this. So all of the hardships that you faced for the past total of 7 years, it's totally worth it once you get your license. Okay, but just let me just like to tell you in advance, class, that getting your license is just the first part, just the beginning of a long journey in architecture and in life. Okay, so section 18. So once you pass, you're going to get a COR, or certificate of registration, and your PRC card. Then section 20, the seal and issuance and the use of seal. So a duly licensed architect shall affix the seal described by the board bearing the registrant's name, registration number, and title architect on all plans, drawings, specifications, and all contract documents prepared by or under his her direct supervision. So I think this is the best feeling after all. So after the examination, and you have already your PRC card, and you have your seal, and you're ready to venture into your practice. So okay. Then just remember, class, that it is unlawful for you to sign projects, plans, or specifications which you have not made or you have not supervised. So it is something that you must remember. I think it will be reiterated to you again when you reach your professional practice too. So section 21. The architect shall be required to indicate the number of his certificate of registration and PIC with its date of issuance and denominability, including the profession tax receipt, which the city municipal treasurer shall issue to the architect upon presentation of his current PIC and the documents he signs, uses, or issues in connection with the practice of his profession. Okay. Section 23, suspension and revocation of the certificates of registration, professional identification card, or the special or temporary permit. So the board shall have the power upon notice and hearing to suspend or revoke the validity of a certificate of registration or professional identification card shall cancel a special permit granted under RE 966 to an architect on any ground mentioned in Section 22. Hereof, for the use or perpetration of any fraud or deceit in obtaining a certificate or of registration and professional identification card or special temporary permit, for gross negligence or incompetence, for unprofessional or dishonorable conduct, or for any cause specified hereunder, provided, however, that such action of the board shall be appealed, subject to appeal to the commission, whose decision shall be final. Okay, so let's browse. Okay. This is something which is important. Rule 4, sundry provisions for the practice of architecture. So Section 25, no person shall practice architecture in this country or engage in preparing architectural plans, specifications, or preliminary data for the erection or alteration of any building located within the boundaries of this country, or use the title architect or display the word architect together with another word, or display or use any title, sign, card, advertisement, or other device to indicate such person practices or offers to practice architecture or is an architect, unless such person shall have received from the board a certificate of registration and be issued a professional identification card in the manner hereinafter provided, and shall thereafter comply with the provisions of Republic Act 9266. So, a foreign architect or any person not authorized to practice architecture in the Philippines who shall stay in the country and perform any of the activities mentioned in Section 3 and 4 of RE 9266, or any activity analogous thereto in connection with the construction of any building, structure, edifice, or land development, shall be deemed engaged in the unauthorized practice of architecture and shall therefore be criminally liable under RE 966 and its IRR Republic Act of 2004. This is really important, class, because someday when you become architects, you'll encounter some people who are not licensed, but they claim to be architects. Okay, or practice our scope. Okay, so knowledge of the law is really important. So it's important, class, that you know that if you do not pass the board examination and you don't have a professional identification card and the certificate of registration, then you cannot be called an architect or practice architecture in the Philippines. Okay? So these are reciprocity requirements. So the gist of it, class, Section 27 is that unless there is a law in that country, particular country where a foreign architect came from, that Filipino architects are practiced in their country also, then they cannot practice architecture in the Philippines. Okay. Then you have Section 28. This is the CPD, or continuing professional development. So I think you're already aware now through the news about the CPD law. Okay. So I agree, class, that CPD is really important because studying should not end after the board examination. So when you become architects, someday it does not mean that you already stop studying. Of course, you must continue learning to improve your craft. Okay, so therefore, CPD is really important. So here, so provision and practice of architecture. Section 29 is also important because, okay, let me highlight this. So any person who shall practice or offer to practice architecture in the Philippines, that being registered or licensed and who are not holders of temporary special permits in accordance with the provision of RE 966, or any person presenting or attempting to use or as his her own the COR, the card, or seal of any of another or temporary special permit, or any person shall give any false or forged evidence of any kind to the board or to any member thereof in obtaining a certificate of registration, identification card, temporary special permit, or any person shall falsely impersonate any registrant of like or different name, or any person shall attempt to use a revoked or suspended certificate of registration, or any person shall use in connection with this name, assume, use, or advertise any title or description tending to convey the impression that he is an architect when he or she is not an architect, or any person, whether Filipino or foreigner, who knowingly allows the use, adoption, implementation of plans or specifications made by any person, firm, partnership, or company not duly licensed to engage in the practice of architecture. Any person shall violate any provisions of Article 966, its implementing rules and regulations, the Code of Ethical Conduct, and the standards of professional practice, or any policy of the board and the commission, shall be guilty of misdemeanor and charged in court by the commission, and shall upon conviction be sentenced to a fine of not less than 100,000 pesos but not more than 5 million pesos, or to suffer imprisonment for a period of less than 6 months or not exceeding 6 years, or both at the discretion of the court. Okay, so this is really important because this gives RA 9266 its needed if and clause to implement the law. Okay. Okay. Then you have here section 31, liability of representatives of non-registered persons. So it shall be unlawful for any person or firm or corporation to seek to avoid the provisions of RA 966 by hiring a representative or employee seek architectural work on their behalf unless and until such persons have duly qualified and duly reserved license. Otherwise, both those the representative, the employer, and the employee shall be deemed guilty of violation of RA 966. Solicitation of architectural work shall be construed as offering to practice architecture and shall be unlawful for any non-registered and unlicensed person to do so. Okay. Remember this provision. So I've been in some debates before online regarding some unlicensed persons who wants to practice architecture even though they are not architects. So section 31 just state this. Okay. Remember class that RA 9266 is a national law. So it's a national law, meaning that it covers the entire Philippines and that ignorance of the law excuses no one. A non-registered person shall not claim equivalent service. Persons not registered as architects shall not claim or represent either services or work equivalent to those of a duly qualified registered architect, or that they are qualified for any branch or function of architectural practice even though no form of the title architect is used. So even if a certain person class does not claim the title architect, but he or she is trying to claim equivalent service to architects, it is not allowed under section 34 of RA 966. Then you have section 36. Of course, if you're not an architect, you can claim fees as stipulated in our SPP. Okay. I think those are the important points class of RA 966 that you must remember. Okay. Then try to read also, read this again. your free time. Then if you have any questions, just send me an email or chat at my Facebook account. Okay? So don't memorize the law class. Just try to understand what it really means. Okay? Because if you memorize it right now, there's a chance that you'll be forgetting it when it's when you really need it. Okay? So I think that's it for RE9266. Okay, so once again, class, if you have any questions or inquiries, feel free to reach me anytime. I'll do my best to answer your queries. Okay, so RE9266 class, or the Architecture Act of 2004, is a really important law for architects and for you aspiring architects as well. This is to protect your practice in the near future. Okay. So class, most clients, class, especially the big projects, starting from high-rise buildings to malls to airports, hotels, big developments, they would never forget to hire an architect. Okay? So architects who have projects already at that level, I don't think they have a problem with the illegal practitioners because the clients are already educated. But when you're looking into the housing industry of the Philippines, especially individual houses, a lot of people still don't know about the importance of architects and what are their functions. Okay? So when you are really starting your career, class, as architects, so when you are doing your residential buildings, you encounter clients who are not really aware of the services that you can offer. That is why I want you to really take your professional practice subjects seriously. Okay? Not only for you to pass the board exam, that's so that when you practice as well, you can also educate our clients. Okay, so RE9266 class is protect the new and budding architects and to protect aspiring architects in the future. Okay, so don't worry, I think the national leadership of UAP is doing something about it regarding the illegal practitioners, especially in smaller projects and residential buildings, which is the common conflict point with some people who are claiming equivalent practice as architects. Okay, so I hope that you learned something. So then keep on reading RE9266 class over and over again until such a time that you're already familiar with it. Okay, so see you next week. Stay safe.